ask you, Darren, in the first instance, to give a view on your view and also what BDO's view is on bring your own devices.
Sure. It's probably a topic that we've tried to step away from for a long time, and sort of to go along with the earlier presentation. I mean, we've been trying to control rather than govern, I think, to date. We've tried to make sure that people with their own devices are not connected to our environments, because we can't control the data that's on them. I say can't. We are currently not in a position to be able to control the data that's on their machines. We often work with very confidential data for our clients. Being a professional services practice in the audit space, we don't want to have management accounts for our clients sitting anywhere that we haven't got control over. But it is becoming a very hot topic. So we've tried to start with looking at how we can introduce mobile technology, aside from our sort of laptops, in a sort of a corporate-owned perspective, so having corporately owned iPads, Android devices, Windows phones, those kind of things. But they're very sort of controlled from a corporate perspective. So over the last month, we've been interviewing our lead partners and across our director group, which probably make up about 50% of our firm, to see how they would like to access this data from their own devices. And it's been a kind of a very mixed bag. Some guys are very much do you know what? You give me a BlackBerry today, you give me a laptop. Why give me an iPad and an iPhone? And I've got devices of my own, so why can't I not just have my own phone or a single device that we can use for work purposes? Which is great, but then on the flip side of that, we've got our risk management team saying, you know what, we don't want to have corporate data out on these devices. You need to be able to control it. So it's going to happen for us, and so we're looking at ways in which we can manage the devices, ensure they're encrypted, understanding the data, how it goes out. You know, we were talking earlier about, and if that person leaves, what happens with that data? So ensuring that we can remove the footprint of our data on those devices, and we are in control of what happens to it. And it's going to be a very big challenge for us, but I believe that there are technologies out there to help us, but I think it's going to be a big shift in our support structure. But it's also going to be a big behavioural change for our people. I think especially with the concept of what can we do to your device if it's a personal device, because they don't want their photos lost, they don't want their music, but they want the freedom for applications, they want the freedom of data, and it's a very challenging area for us at the moment.
So it sounds like a lot of decisions need to be made. And I go here, you've done quite a bit of work in this, you did a study around this. Do you want to share some of your findings?
Yeah, indeed. Pretty much the same as Darren just mentioned. We've done a review recently around the whole iPad, whether we need to use it, whether we shouldn't be using it. Compared to the two guys next to me, we're a very small organisation, we're 100 people worldwide. But nonetheless, you know, consumerisation, iPads, it's going to be inevitable. People are going to start pushing them more and more. So we conducted a review which lasted 3 months, about 6 months ago, and we went through the whole usage, you know, realistically, what are people going to use the iPads for? And ultimately what it came down to was that people wanted to use iPads for emails, or if they were out with clients, going to see brokers, they probably want to show them presentations. And realistically, the main purpose was emails, and well, to all intents and purposes, people already had BlackBerries for that. In the insurance world, you know, we've got Solvency II, which is coming on board, which is giving us more and more regulation, more and more compliance that we need to deal with. And so the main focus for us was around security. BlackBerry had recently, you know, had an outage, and there was a lot of concern about how BlackBerry, how secure they were. So obviously when the attention came to the iPads, there was a lot of concern about how secure the iPads was. We got some security specialists involved. They came back and gave us some feedback on what they thought, how strong iOS was. They came back with kind of like mixed reviews. Some people saying, you know, some of the review was very promising, saying that our iOS 5 was very, very secure. But some other instances, they were saying, actually, it's not as secure with your BlackBerry or, in fact, your laptop. So a bit of a mixed review. Where we've ended up is that for now, we're probably going to put it on hold. We want to see what Microsoft's going to do with Windows 8 on their tablets before we take it any further. and we still need to establish how we're going to integrate it with our network so we can actually get our documents onto the iPads, not just emails.
Thank you. Angela, I know your organisation has deployed iPads because you were told to, or because it gave productivity. So I think you will share your experiences.
Yeah, we seem to be quite far ahead really with this, because we adopted the Microsoft Cloud technologies about 3 years ago, where we move out the entire SharePoint into the BPOS-D. We have a dedicated service on the cloud, because 365, for the reason explained earlier, does not offer to a financial institution like ourselves the security to accommodate the needs we have to have a global SharePoint solution on the cloud. And during the last few years, we also moved the email system as well, from Notes to Exchange into the BPOS-D. So with that, as the gentleman earlier mentioned, the iPads went to the directors and the chief execs and then start using them. So we have to accommodate that need for them to use them, because find it more flexible, they don't have to carry their Blackberries and laptops with them, so they want to do, and we adopted this use your own device quite early on. Obviously the challenges around that, how to secure the email, how to secure the information into the iPads and iPhones. We then, a year or so ago, we engaged Eurodata to actually implement what's forefront UAG, which is provide us with the secure access to the information and allows us to then wipe any sensitive data that is left behind during the remote. Obviously, there are challenges around using other mobile devices. Obviously, we have gone through the check of iPhones and iPads. They do implement what is called, from Active SIM perspective, the encryption of the storage. But other devices, like being the Google devices, Android devices, etc., don't actually implement the security, and that's why we're going through the stage of implementing the mobile device management on top of UAG, on top of the PKI and RMS, which is already deployed for the back end. So we have a control of what the users can actually download into their devices, either is a mobile device or is their laptop, etc., via their PKI and RMS infrastructure. Plus, with UAG in the front end, it cleans up any residues that is left behind after the user session is finished. So this mobile device management is going to come in on top of those to then provide this blanket across all mobile devices to control all the applications being deployed on the devices and anything is left behind, obviously together with the identity management, which will then take care of what happens when provisioning happening. So there are different kind of vendors out there that we're looking at from a mobile device management. Obviously, Apple provide that its own, and that's the one we're sort of currently looking at. And that does provide a sort of a layer on top of the BlackBerry as well. It doesn't really add anything to it. It's just another layer of management on top of it. But you could control the BlackBerry device as well from the same console. The only issue with that is that there is a license implication if you do so. So all of them, all our global applications are accessible internally and externally because we have a mixture of hybrid clouds. We have obviously our core SharePoint and mail systems and stuff are hosted by Microsoft. Data centers around the globe are some controlled by HP, some controlled by so we have a mixture of private and hybrid clouds, and our core management system is based on ILM for the device for the identity management, and we are looking at moving towards FIM because of the flexibility it provides around passwords and stuff. But obviously, again, for a corporation of the size that we have, the licenses costs are quite high, and so we sort of are looking at that space as well. But yeah, we have adopted it. We have to, and Aviva is moving towards this digital insurer kind of a strategy. So we are sort of, I guess, in cutting edge and sort of bleeding edge, I would say, of that market. Okay,
so it sounds like you have sort of picked up and deployed a lot of the technology that we've been discussing today.
Yeah.
So if I stay with you for the next question, the next question is really have you introduced any policies with regards to this within your business? So because you're quite a way down the road, has it meant that you've had to change internal policies with regards to issuing this technology?
Well, yes, you have to, because first of all, we are a financial institution. We are implying the same regulations that all they are. So from business protection and FSA, we have to comply with those before it actually goes into the production, because that's why it was important and necessary before we provided this documentation online to have this PKI-RMS infrastructure deployed into the cloud to allow us to have some control around what users can and cannot do. So it's part of that. We're doing a catch-up because, unfortunately, technology and what people in Aviva want is moving quite fast, so we have to constantly catch up with that. But yes, it's a lot of, because obviously, yes, we are doing that, basically.
So, Darren, I know you've implemented some technologies around rights management and remote access. So have you had to, again, re-look at the policies that the organisation issued to its staff?
Yeah, we have, and I mean, within the last year, we've also been accredited with the ISO 27001 accreditation. So we've radically changed our policies and procedures throughout the firm to incorporate the sort of the data protection, that sort of rights management and access to our systems, and what people can do with data on their devices and their responsibility to act in that way. But I think as we move into that sort of bring your own device, I think it's going to bring a whole new challenge to us with policies. And we've been working very closely with our US firm, who have had that as a sort of an adopted principle for about 3 or 4 years now. So we're sort of learning from them as well as to how we structure the sort of policies and the contracts as well with our people to ensure that they understand what they can, they can't do, and what we can and can't do with their devices.
I guess you sort of touch on things which people will flag up as invasions of privacy with some of this technology, especially if you allow them to use their own devices. Go ahead, from your perspective. I mean, the next question is how you sort of conceal sensitive data. So was one of the drivers to not go down this route purely with regards to sensitive data and compliance and regulation?
Yeah, pretty much so. Going back to the point of bringing your own device, I don't think that's something that our management team is really going to allow. For us, we would want to be in control of the device. One of the reasons why those devices have been so successful is because of the App Store. People don't have to download the application, they can do all the other funky stuff they want, they can't normally do in the office, they can do it on their own device. But at the same time, realistically, from my point of view, I don't know what else those devices or those applications are doing. So I'll be loath to allow them to bring them into quite a secure environment and just let those devices do whatever they want. Because realistically, at the end of the day, I wouldn't let a user bring in their own laptop. Because I'd have to check if it do have a proper virus protection and everything else. So it goes the same with that sort of device. One of the things we were also looking at was, the mobile device management. So there were things like, I don't know if you looked at Good Technologies or Mobile Iron. There's a number of applications out there.
That's when Mobile Iron is the one with.
Yeah, there's a number of systems out there that would encrypt the data on the device. You can remote wipe and do all the other stuff that you'd expect them to do. But I think where we are at the moment is we're still trying to get that balance whether we want allowing people to bring in their own device, or if we do go down the tablet route, it's really going to be a device that we'll issue ourselves.
Okay. So it's quite interesting. The next question sort of leads into something you've all touched on, which is, do you differentiate on the type of data you allow to a particular device? And it sort of touches on something, Angela, and you, Darren, around the type of devices you've allowed, you haven't allowed, and the type of products. So I think if we start with you, Darren, your view around device, because I guess Android is something that none of you have discussed yet. So I guess I'd like to start there. So what would your view be on allowing an Android technology as a bring your own device?
We're probably in the same place we would have been 18 months ago when our partnership decided that they wanted to bring iPads into the arena. We would have to assess the risks with the device, what the device is capable from a security perspective, and again, what capabilities we've got to manage that with the mobile device management suite. You know, if we can ensure that these devices will adhere to our policies, our structures, our encryption policies, all of these types of things, and we can control the data and how our applications integrate with the device, I don't see why we can't open up that flexibility, but we need to make sure that we're comfortable with the solution in those devices. I mean, I'd like to get to the point where we don't say everything's able to connect, but these are our preferred devices, and if you want to bring your device in, if it complies to this and you're happy to sign this agreement, bring your device, make yourself more productive.
Sure. So go ahead. When you looked at iOS and the Apple device, did you actually consider Android at all as part of that?
I did. We looked at Android. We looked at the BlackBerry Playbook as well. So we looked at the whole range, and it all came down to fundamentally, you know, how strong, how secure were these devices. And we found out at the end of the day there wasn't really much difference between them all. As long as you put on some sort of MDM suite on top, you know, that would give you the additional comfort factor that you probably need. So yeah, for me, you know, like Darren said, it's not really a case of is it going to be an iPad, is it going to be Google, so is it going to be Android? What operating system would we go for? I think a tablet is a device, and we should just take it as the device as it is. It's more a case of, as Darren stated, you know, if someone's going to bring their own device in externally from home, it's got to be compliant within our environment.
Sure. So, Angelo, I mean, I know iPads are the flavour of device within Aviva. Was that by choice, or is that just really what everyone wanted?
Forced upon by the execs.
So
the Mavericks, they mentioned earlier.
So the kids wanted iPads at home.
But in a way, though, luckily for us, in a way, doing their sort of security checks around the iPads and iPhones, from the storage perspective, we can enforce the policy of the encryption. We haven't adopted any Android devices for exactly that reason. So we only allow BlackBerries and iPhone, iPads devices currently. However, what we do have that allow us to present this application or documents to the users is a portal via UEG. That is because actually our users never get access right to the back end. They are stopped into the portal. And then obviously they do have the agreement from HR, so if they use their own devices, the policy agreement that user integrity and everything else applies, because you can't, as you said, we're moving towards a governance of we can't control what a user may do. We do allow users of their own laptop, again, controlled by the UEG, what they can't do about the upload, download policies. Obviously, if they have to use their own device, they have to meet certain criteria like having a firewall, having a antivirus up to date, etc., before they are in a position to do that. So we're trying to control it that way without giving a full access to the entire backend, because even if we wanted to, because our sort of a complex environment of we can't have direct access into the Microsoft Cloud, such, or into HP data centers and stuff. So we have to create those portal solutions and present application that way.
Okay. So the next question is really one of the topics that we touched on throughout the day is social media. So, and it's as much a topic that we find as a system integrator as bring your own device. So Darren, I mean, your organisation's view on sort of allowing your users to connect to social media on bring your own devices used in your environment, but also on corporate devices.
Yeah, I mean, it's never been discouraged. Our marketing team have been big advocates of, LinkedIn for a long time. We have our own Facebook, Twitter sites. You know, we kind of take the approach that we employ good people. That they're all adults and they're all responsible for themselves. I mean, everyone has to, you know, sign your declarations each year to say you're going to adopt the acceptable use. I mean, as you say, you can't control everything that someone's going to do, but these tools do enable us to make contacts with our clients and to share information with each other. And we've seen that with business continuity and using things like Twitter internally there for ourselves. So, you know, providing we can ensure that our people are protected from, and I think it's probably more about the malicious content on the social media side, that's my job. But I think from an HR perspective, ensuring that we employ professional people that use these tools for the value of the business.
Go ahead. I mean, did the social media component fall part of your study?
It didn't, because it's a no-no. No way. There's a lot of discussion internally. CEO put his foot down. Absolutely no Facebook, nothing whatsoever. Having said that, over the last few months, we have managed to get LinkedIn opened up, because it's more of a business tool rather than social media. But otherwise, absolutely no way. And it all comes down to productivity. That's really, as far as management's concerned, it would impact productivity, so absolutely no way.
So it sounds like there's sort of two cultural views rather than technology views there. Angelo, I mean, you seem, Aviva seems to be sort of quite a way down the road around
consumerisation. It is. We have no restriction whatsoever on media at all. Besides, obviously, we have our own global SharePoint from and OCS, so from within Aviva we have, but we also have pages on all the major Twitters and Facebooks and LinkedIn. We have pages for that. Okay. There's no restriction of Aviva at all.
All right. So, I think
even though it's not like it's completely wide open, but it's controlled, but it's not. It's governed, not controlled.
So I think you mentioned FIM a while ago. I know BDO have looked at FIM. So I mean, identity management across the estate.
Yeah.
How important is identity management?
Well, from our point of view, it's one of the biggest challenges we face at the moment. We have 55,000 UK alone, and there's 29 business units around the globe. That means we have 29 or 30 different forests, and every single one of them with their own user RACFID or their own usernames and stuff. So we're trying to bring them to the cloud to have this global email under aviva.com email. Is becoming a big challenge for us, because we adopted the policy what is called first come first serve as far as user IDs and stuff, because you have to start somewhere. From IT perspective, I would go and say that alphanumeric sort of a completely agnostic sort of number to give them, but I want to associate their name with a username. So it's a difficult topic. But currently, to allow us to move into the cloud, we implemented ILM early doors to allow this. We got MA to every single business unit to allow this. But obviously, with the FIM and what it is from Federated Service and stuff, we want to move to that space and create this, because we've got a new HR system and stuff to trying to organize all this provisioning and around it. But it's a challenge, because not just from implementation point of view and the cost around it, but obviously licenses is the biggest one at the moment, because the implication we have for the size of our company.
Okay. Go ahead, have you got a view around identity management and how it affects your organisation?
Well, with 100 people worldwide, it's not really an issue for us. Inevitably, I can see why it would be an issue, and it's something that I suppose, especially if you start using cloud-based services, how you want to authenticate through your stack all the way up to your cloud, that's definitely something that you'd need, but for us, it's not really an issue at the moment.
Darren?
Yeah, we implemented FIM 2010, it's probably about 18 months ago now. The main driver really was because of our ISO 27001 accreditation. With 2,500 users in the UK, it was often a sort of a management headache to show that when someone joins and when someone leaves, we've actually shut down the access for them in a timely manner. And with a number of internal systems, but probably more of a risk, the external access that these people could have, it was becoming a management headache. So that has given us fully automated, driven out of HR, solutions to enable somebody, give them the right access from day one and sort of close them down within seconds. But that's only going to help us as we move more services outside of our internal network and into that mobile space as well. But it's core to our infrastructure now.
Okay. So one of the final questions we've got is, do you as a panel ever foresee a time where we're just going to go to tablet technology, or as Microsoft like to phrase it, slate technology? There's no keyboards, no mice, everything's on a tablet and it's quite portable. So go here. You've got a view from your business environment, because you've got quite a focused environment, haven't you?
But, I think it's inevitable. You know, even me just looking at the way I work at home, I've got 3 PCs and a Mac, but all I ever do is just sit at home on my iPad. You know, I think it's inevitable. Consumerisation I have a 6-year-old son, he's autistic, he has learning difficulties, but he can use an iPad inside out, no problem whatsoever. And for him, it's been a fantastic tool. It's taught him to read, write, better than the school was doing. So, you know, you talk about, you know, the digital age that's coming through. For them, they're not really going to know much else really going forward.
So we can already see the next generation of employees and users coming through are really going to be focused around using this technology from an early age. And I think your story is fairly representative.
Absolutely. So when we did do the iPad review, the main view was for the board. Because you've seen board packs, especially for a FTSE listed company, they're huge. You know, the packs like that have to be emailed out, they have to be reconciled, all sorts of stuff that goes on. And we looked at it from the point of view of just, you know, giving them out on an iPad instead. And realistically, that's what we'll probably do by the end of the year. We'll probably roll them out just on iPad. So if it's good enough for the board and the board is going to start using them, yeah, we can see them being pushed out through the rest of the company.
Because although you're 100 users, what you have under, you know, insurance, I mean, the value is astronomical.
Yeah, we're capitalised at $2 billion. We write over 700-800 million a year. So yeah, so in terms of assets and revenue, yeah, absolutely.
So from a data ownership and risk, you know, if you are going to drive towards that consumerisation horizon, again, you've got to keep, I guess, going through this review and ensuring that you're ready for the inevitable, as you put it. Angela, you guys seem to have committed already. Where do you see it going beyond that?
Well, as I said, the current sort of a strategy is to basically carry on and just go down that route, and this digital insurer is becoming more and more reality. That's a lot to be looked at, because before we get to that stage of fully adopting the use of mobile devices, you have to be able to present them to the user in a way that is workable. From Aviva perspective, we do look at the mobile devices and user-owned devices quite seriously, because it helps us with the reduction of the concept of remote work is quite significant to us, because the amount of buildings we have in UK, for example, alone, by using something, technologies like that, it helps us doing what fully implement that remote worker, reducing office space, power consumption, which is cost a huge amount of money. So it's quite important to do that. But in order to fully adopt that technology, you have to have those applications and the portals to allow you to do that. So it's not going to be quite quickly, even for us. It's going to take at least 3 to 5 years before we're in a position to fully adopt that. But we are working on that.
Darren, obviously, I know a little bit about all your organisations, and I know that although you've got 2,500 odd users, you haven't got one desktop in your environment. Everyone uses a laptop. So it'd be quite interesting the fact that you've actually pushed people towards constantly having a very ultra-light laptop, mobile. Do you see tablet technology as the way forward?
Yeah, I mean, we went down the laptop route primarily because any time we probably could get about 80% of our staff out meeting with clients and interacting with them at any one time. You know, we need to ensure that they're mobile and they're connected, and these tablet devices will lead us down that route. I mean, but for us at the moment, we see, I mean, in the absence of that sort of portal technology, these are great for our consumers. But for the creators and those that need to access our sort of line of business applications, they're not ready for us yet. And we're hoping that when Microsoft gets into that space, and we're seeing some bits with Windows 8, that we're able to sort of bridge the two, so we can have the sort of personal side and bring your own apps onto those devices, but allowing us to run in a sort of a common Windows world with our business applications. And yeah, I don't think we will purchase another round of laptops again after this. I think we will go down that tablet route, providing we see what we believe we're going to see with Microsoft and tablets in the future.
So that leads me on to my last question, which isn't one I put up there, but a bit of crystal ball gazing. So I'll ask each of you individually, what do you think is going to be the tablet that's going to be prominent in 3 years' time out of all the manufacturers?
Consumer or within the office?
Both or the same? Because we're recording this, we'll play it back in 3 years.
Samsung.
Yeah.
Samsung on what operating system?
Even I prefer laptops, I'm old school.
So Samsung, Android or Windows then?
Oh, from the tablets and stuff, and phone and tablets, I think there seem to be the power and the technology behind to produce this proper LCD stuff. I haven't gotten Samsung myself, got Apple, but...
You're advertising, you want Samsung to send you one.
yeah. That'd be nice.
No, I think I agree with the Samsung, but I think where it will break ground is with the integration with the Microsoft suite. I think Apple will continue to evolve, but Microsoft has to play a bigger part in this space.
So from an OS perspective, I think, go here, your view on hardware?
I'm going to stick my neck out and say keep with the Apple.
Okay, so your hardware Apple, OS Apple, so we've got that recorded. Samsung OS?
Windows.
Oh, Windows.
Okay.
We are Microsoft house throughout, so...